Hey guys, today I'll show you a science fiction thriller TV series named Misfits, Season 2. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Previously in Season 1, a superpowered leader of the virtue cult appeared in town, possessing the ability to brainwash people. She transformed everyone into her own perception of good individuals. Nathan, determined to restore everyone to normal, confronted her in a struggle that led to his fatal fall from a building. However, after he was buried, his supernatural ability, resurrection, brought him back to life. Now he faced a new problem: how to escape from his grave. Fortunately, the answer came quickly. Before long, a masked man tossed a paper airplane into the air. It flew precisely toward Kelly, who had stepped outside for a smoke. The message on the plane read, "Go to his grave." Perplexed, Kelly gathered the others to discuss the cryptic note. They decided to check out the graveyard, but not before finishing their community service for the day. Under the supervision of their new probation officer, Sean, they began their latest assignment, looking after a group of psychiatric patients. Amid the crowd, Simon suddenly spotted a familiar face, Lucy. Later, Lucy approached Simon in private, expressing how much she had missed him and insisting he meet her that night. Simon, visibly uneasy, hesitated before reluctantly agreeing. He seemed genuinely afraid of Lucy, but when night fell, Simon didn't keep his promise. Instead, he joined the group on their trip to Nathan's grave. As they stood by the burial site, Kelly's power suddenly activated. She could hear Nathan's thoughts as he, to put it bluntly, was entertaining his smelly sausage and having some solo fun. Realizing he was still alive, they frantically dug him up. When Nathan finally emerged, the group breathed a collective sigh of relief, confirming that his ability was, in fact, miraculous resurrection. However, their relief was quickly interrupted by a foul stench. After days of being trapped in his coffin, Nathan had been forced to relieve himself inside. And yet, despite his situation, he still found the time to entertain himself, which left everyone both disgusted and oddly impressed. Just like that, Nathan rejoined the 5-person crew the next day. Sean didn't question Nathan's sudden return. During their shift, Lucy confronted Simon about ditching her the night before. Simon, visibly nervous, glanced toward Nathan and the others as if silently declaring that they were his real friends now. The rest of the group noticed Simon acting strangely. Nathan, never one to hold back, teased him for getting involved with a girl, then casually blurted out that Lucy was a complete psycho. That was the last straw. Lucy's pent-up rage erupted and she was ready to take revenge. Cut to later that day when their work was done. Alicia, out of nowhere, approached Simon in the locker room and seduced him. Before he could even react, she dropped to her knees and went straight for the smelly prize. Simon was left completely dazed. 2 minutes later, he finished, but after leaving the locker room, Alicia walked into the bathroom and stood before the mirror. Her face twisted and contorted, letting out an eerie wail. Her reflection wasn't Alicia anymore, but Lucy. It turned out Lucy had superpowers too. She could shapeshift her sexy body. Suspicious of Alicia's odd behavior, Simon later sought her out for answers. During their conversation, he accidentally overheard a police officer arriving at the community center. Sensing trouble, Simon activated his invisibility and eavesdropped on their conversation. The cops were there to investigate the disappearance of the probation officer Sally, but without a search warrant, they had no choice but to back off for now. Meanwhile, Nathan and Kelly were off chatting. Having already died once, Nathan seemed bolder than ever. Taking his shot, he confessed his feelings for Kelly. To his surprise, she didn't reject him and even invited him to work out together that night. Nathan, thrilled, was thrown off by how much her mood had shifted. Later, Nathan ran into Kelly in the bathroom and eagerly anticipated their intense workout. But Kelly had other ideas. She told Nathan to drop his stinky pants for a quality check. The moment he did, she burst into laughter, mocking his circumcised cigar being too smelly and too small. Before Nathan could even react, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving his fuming cigar behind. Feeling utterly humiliated, Nathan yanked up his stinky pants and stormed after her, only to run straight into Kelly again. Furious, he lashed out, yelling that he wasn't the problem. She was, comparing her to a giant water tank. Kelly was utterly confused by his outburst, but didn't bother arguing, choosing instead to walk away. There was no doubt about it. The Kelly who had just humiliated Nathan wasn't the real Kelly. It was Lucy, and she wasn't done yet. Alicia, her face streaked with blood, found Curtis and told him that Simon had beaten her up and attacked his own girlfriend. Furious, Curtis immediately stormed off to confront Simon. As soon as he left, Alicia's expression turned ice cold. At that moment, Simon was listening in on a police conversation, preparing to move Sally's body. Before he could act, Curtis charged in like a raging bull and gave him a brutal beating. Nathan, who had been watching from the sidelines, found the whole thing entertaining. Kelly and Alicia arrived just in time to see Alicia standing there completely unharmed, leaving Curtis utterly baffled. Realizing something was off, Nathan's gaze landed on the covered body in the cart. With no other choice, Simon confessed to Sally's murder and revealed that she had been in a relationship with their first probation officer, Tony. Before anyone could process this, Nathan suddenly bolted. Moments later, another Nathan stepped out of the bathroom. The truth hit Simon like a ton of bricks. Someone was impersonating them. Now that this imposter knew about the murder, they had to track them down fast. To prevent further deception, the group agreed on a secret code to confirm each other's identities. It didn't take long before they spotted a suspicious-looking Lucy. The moment she saw them, she ran. They gave chase, only to bump straight into their new probation officer, Sean. Thinking he was Lucy in disguise, they beat him mercilessly, trying to force him to reveal his true form. But as the fight escalated, Kelly accidentally killed Sean. It seemed like being their probation officer was a death sentence. One after another, they kept dying. Suddenly, Lucy's figure appeared in the distance. The group finally realized they had attacked the wrong person. Luckily, Curtis had the ability to rewind time. He jumped back to the moment before they encountered Sean, warned the others, and avoided the fatal mistake. When they finally caught up to Lucy inside the building, she pulled a trick they didn't expect. She transformed into a rat and vanished into a tiny hole in the wall. With a brief moment to breathe, the group finally discussed Simon's connection to Lucy. It turned out that after Simon set fire to the community center, he had been sent to a psychiatric facility where he met Lucy. She had been drawn to him from the start, which explained everything. She had done all of this because she couldn't stand the idea of Simon leaving her behind. While they talked, the tiny rat Lucy had transformed into managed to escape. Nathan chased her into the locker room and trapped her in a box. Just as he was about to crush her, Simon appeared behind him. Sensing something was off, Nathan tested him with their secret code. When Simon failed to respond correctly, Nathan knew this wasn't Simon. Lucy attacked, slamming Nathan into the wall. A pipe burst, impaling Nathan in the stomach. Panicking, Lucy fled the scene, leaving him behind. It wasn't long before the others arrived. Fearing that Lucy had disguised herself as one of them, they each tried to prove their identities. Since the secret code had been compromised, the only way to confirm their real selves was by using their abilities. Alicia and Simon quickly demonstrated theirs and passed the test. When it was Curtis's turn, Kelly suddenly pointed at him, saying she could hear his thoughts. He's Lucy. Without hesitation, she tackled him to the ground. Her eyes were wild, her expression manic. In a desperate attempt to suffocate him, she grabbed a plastic bag and forced it over his head. Curtis struggled, gasping for air. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, the masked man appeared again. He cut the power, plunging the room into darkness. In the chaos, he managed to rescue Curtis and disappear into the shadows. As the lights flickered back on, the group realized the horrifying truth. Kelly had been Lucy in disguise. Lucy wasted no time making her move, striking Simon down. Standing over him, she delivered her final threat. Since Simon refused to be her friend, she would simply take his place. She planned to turn herself into the police while wearing Simon's face, ensuring he would be locked away in the psychiatric hospital again, where they could be together forever. With that, she vanished from the locker room. Determined to put an end to everything, Simon used his invisibility to infiltrate the police station. He found Lucy in the interrogation room. For the first time, he spoke to her honestly. He apologized for the pain he had caused her. He admitted that, for the first time in his life, he had found a place where he belonged. Friends who truly cared about him. He begged her not to take that away from him. Perhaps it was because she had lived such a lonely life, but Lucy was moved by his sincerity. After a long moment of hesitation, she made her choice. She let go. She told the police it had all been a prank. As expected, she was thrown out of the interrogation room. Outside, she ran into Simon once more. He thanked her, and for the first time, there was no hostility between them. With everything finally over, the group took a small Tesla boat out onto the river under the cover of night. They dumped Sally's body into the water, watching as it sank beneath the surface. As they rowed back, their thoughts briefly drifted to the mysterious masked man who had saved them multiple times. But being who they were, they quickly dismissed it. What they didn't know was that, at that very moment, the masked man stood silently on the riverbank, watching them from the shadows. The scene shifts to the group sunbathing on the rooftop. As usual, Nathan was up to his antics. He stripped down to just his stinky underwear and began striking exaggerated poses while rubbing lotion all over himself. The others cringed at the sight, calling it an absolute eyesore. Just as Nathan was getting into the groove of his bizarre performance, a man claiming to be his younger brother suddenly interrupted him. Nathan was baffled. He was pretty sure he didn't have a brother. But then the man spoke 4 words: same father, different mother. In that instant, Nathan understood. The man introduced himself as Jamie. Surprisingly, for someone as unreliable as Nathan, he seemed to take his newfound brother rather seriously. To celebrate their reunion, Nathan took Jamie out for drinks at a bar. While chatting, the two of them noticed an attractive woman across the room, which quickly became their next topic of discussion. Unsurprisingly, being from the same bloodline, they had identical tastes in women. Eager to set an example, Nathan decided to make a move on her. However, before he could even finish his opening line, the woman shot him a look of disgust and immediately shooed his smelly butt away. Not one to dwell on embarrassment, Nathan casually strolled over to the bar and tried flirting with the bartender. Unfortunately, she wasn't interested either. Just as she was about to kick him out, something unexpected happened. She accidentally activated a superpower, instantly freezing the drinks on the counter. As it turned out, the bartender was a superpowered individual too. This newfound common ground sparked a conversation between them. However, their moment was quickly interrupted when the bar owner stormed over, furious about the damage the bartender had caused. Wanting to play the hero, Nathan stepped in to defend her, only to get knocked out cold with a single punch from the owner. Even though his rescue attempt failed spectacularly, Nathan still managed to win the bartender over. Before he left, she slipped him her number. Proud of his small victory, he smugly flaunted it in front of Jamie as they walked to the parking lot, ready for their next adventure. That's when Jamie suddenly noticed his car had been stolen. Nathan shrugged it off as no big deal, but Jamie dropped a bombshell. Before coming to find Nathan, he had a heated argument with their father. After years of neglect and indifference, Jamie finally snapped. In a fit of rage, he knocked their father unconscious and stuffed him into the trunk of the car he had driven here. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Nathan joined Jamie in searching for the stolen vehicle. It didn't take long before they spotted it cruising past them. Wasting no time, they gave chase. The car eventually pulled into a parking lot where a group of thugs stepped out. Assessing the situation, Nathan knew brute force wouldn't work. They had to be smart about it. He quickly came up with a plan. He told Jamie to hide while he approached the thugs, pretending to be a desperate rent boy selling himself. The thugs took the bait, their curiosity piqued. While Nathan kept them distracted, Jamie seized the opportunity to sneak into the car and drive it away. Once they successfully escaped, they pulled over and popped open the trunk, dragging their father out onto the ground. Before they could catch their breath, police sirens blared. Within moments, officers surrounded them and arrested both Nathan and Jamie on the spot. Fortunately, their father, despite everything, chose not to press charges against Jamie. While processing their release, tensions flared between Nathan and his father. Nathan exploded, accusing him of being a complete bastard, bringing children into the world only to abandon them. The argument grew more heated by the second, with neither willing to back down. In the end, the conversation ended as it always had, bitter, unresolved, and going nowhere. Alicia was walking down the street when she suddenly noticed the masked man tailing her. Without hesitation, she gave chase, managing to capture his image on her phone. The next day, she showed the footage to the others, confirming their suspicions. The masked man was targeting them. Simon speculated that the news of Nathan being alive was most likely leaked to them by this very person. At that moment, Nathan also recalled that the same masked figure had previously saved them from the clutches of the virtue leader. However, despite their curiosity about the masked man's identity and intentions, no one was too eager to dwell on it. There were more pressing matters, like having fun. That evening, Kelly suggested they all hit a bar for a night out. Naturally, no one objected. Nathan insisted on bringing Jamie along, and once work was done, he dragged his brother to the meetup. On the way to the bar, the two of them ended up talking about their father. Jamie admitted that he had always been jealous of Nathan, believing that their father had shown Nathan love and attention while ignoring him. Originally, Jamie had sought Nathan out to get revenge, only to realize that Nathan's relationship with their father wasn't any better than his own. That night, Nathan brought Jamie to the bar and, in an attempt to play matchmaker, invited the bartender as well. To get the party going, Jamie handed out some of his special medicine to everyone. Simon normally wouldn't touch it, but Jamie caught him off guard and slipped one into his mouth. As the effects kicked in, they all hit the dance floor, hyped and energized. However, it wasn't long before something strange happened. Their superpowers were reversed. Alicia's ability twisted, making anyone who touched her feel an overwhelming sense of disgust toward her. Curtis, who could originally travel back in time, suddenly found himself able to foresee the future instead. When he snapped back to reality, he found himself standing on a rooftop, dressed in a full-blown superhero costume. A mysterious woman was seductively undressing in front of him. Just as things were about to escalate, he was abruptly yanked back to the present. Simon's transformation was even more absurd. Typically invisible in social settings, he had now become the center of attention, attracting every pair of eyes in the room. Before he knew it, he was surrounded by a swarm of beautiful women, all vying for his attention. Due to the power reversal, Kelly was now only capable of speaking the absolute truth when talking to Nathan. She told him bluntly that he was just as much of a bastard as his father. The words cut deep. Nathan was visibly shaken, and their conversation immediately fell apart. Frustrated and looking for someone to vent to, Nathan turned to Jamie, only to discover that Jamie was already in the car with the bartender, locked in a passionate hormone yoga session. As things heated up, the drug's effects took an unexpected turn. The bartender's ability, originally ice-based, completely reversed. She became a walking fire hazard. Without warning, she spontaneously combusted, her entire body engulfed in flames. The car instantly caught fire, and within moments, the flames spread uncontrollably. Nathan arrived just in time to witness the chaos. Horrified, he rushed toward the vehicle to save Jamie, but before he could get close, the masked man suddenly appeared and stopped him in his tracks. In a split second, the car exploded. Nathan, in sheer panic, sprinted toward the wreckage, convinced Jamie had been killed. He was on the verge of a breakdown when, miraculously, Jamie stumbled out from behind the burning vehicle, coughing but very much alive. Nathan finally let out a breath of relief. The masked man had sustained injuries while saving Nathan from the explosion. Limping away from the scene, he attempted to disappear into the night. However, Simon had caught a glimpse of him in the crowd and, without hesitation, decided to follow him. Keeping his distance, he carefully tracked the masked man all the way to his hideout. Not wanting to alert him, Simon chose to retreat for now, planning to regroup with his friends and figure out their next move. But what Simon didn't realize was that the masked man had anticipated this. As soon as Simon left, the masked figure silently slipped out through another window on the opposite side of the house. It was clear now. He had wanted Simon to follow him there. Jamie was racked with guilt over the bartender's death, unable to understand how the car suddenly burst into flames. With no other choice, Nathan finally told Jamie the truth about superpowers. After witnessing the bartender's tragic fate, Jamie had a change of heart. He decided to return home and try to make amends with their father, dragging Nathan along for support. Reluctantly, Nathan agreed, and together they went to see their father. Encouraged by Jamie, Nathan tried to mend their strained relationship. But as the conversation went on, it inevitably shifted to Jamie. Nathan urged their father to show Jamie more love and care. Then came the shocking twist. His father froze at the mention of Jamie's name, staring at Nathan in confusion, asking why he was saying this because Jamie died in that car on the day of the explosion. Nathan turned to look at Jamie, his stomach dropping. Jamie simply nodded, confirming the unthinkable. He had been dead all along. That's when Nathan realized that after his power reversal, he had gained the ability to see spirits. Devastated by the revelation, Nathan was determined to do something for his brother. Jamie had returned not for himself, but to help Nathan and their father reconcile. Their father, broken by the loss of his son, finally apologized for abandoning his family. Watching from the sidelines, Jamie encouraged Nathan to let go of his resentment. After a moment of internal struggle, Nathan gave in and forgave the old bastard. A faint smile passed between father and son. At last, they had found peace. With his final wish fulfilled, Jamie was ready to move on. As Nathan and his father headed out for a meal, he caught one last glimpse of Jamie waving at him from a distance, standing beside the bartender. Slowly, their figures faded into nothingness. After work, Simon dragged everyone to the masked man's hideout. Since no one was home, they broke in, kicking the door open. Nathan, ever the troublemaker, decided to get revenge for being stalked by taking a smelly dump right on the masked man's bed. As they searched the place, they noticed something strange. The closet was filled with women's clothes. This didn't seem like the masked man's hideout at all. Just as they were wondering why they had been led here, the true owner of the house returned. To their shock, it was the same woman Curtis had hooked up with when he traveled to the future. The scene shifts to a flashback when Alicia was mugged on the street. At the last moment, the masked man appeared and retrieved her stolen belongings, but when he handed them back to her, something strange happened. He wasn't affected by Alicia's flirting powers at all. Cut to the present, the gang, led by their probation officer Sean, had been assigned garbage sorting duty at the local dump. After handing out their tasks, the officer turned to leave, as usual planning to ditch them and go slack off. Nathan, fed up with his half-assed attitude, confronted him about shirking his responsibilities. Sean simply scoffed, shrugging that he just assigned the tasks and he didn't have to babysit a bunch of delinquents. After work, Kelly needed to touch up her fading tattoo, so Nathan and Simon accompanied her to a tattoo parlor. The tattoo artist took an immediate interest in Kelly and started flirting with her. Nathan, watching his friend get hit on right in front of him, wasn't about to let that slide. He started throwing snarky, passive-aggressive comments, successfully provoking the tattoo artist. Pissed off, the tattoo artist grabbed his tattoo gun and playfully zapped it in Nathan's direction. Nathan barely flinched, only feeling a slight sting on his shoulder. He brushed it off and left the shop with Kelly and Simon. That's when things got weird. Nathan, who was usually glued to Kelly's side, suddenly ditched her. Instead, he insisted on bonding with Simon, pulling him along to their community center. The two found a quiet spot and started chatting, except Nathan's tone was oddly suggestive. Simon, completely caught off guard, was both confused and flattered. Nathan wasn't just trying to strengthen their friendship, he was making moves. Then, out of nowhere, Nathan went in for a smelly kiss. And not just any kiss, he straight up tried to stick his juicy tongue down Simon's throat. Before Simon could even process what was happening, Nathan upped the ante, urging him to take off his stinky pants for a physical examination. Simon nearly had a heart attack, thinking they were just friends, but he actually wanted to have a baby with him. Horrified, Simon bolted, running for his shitty life. On the other side, Alicia was determined to find the masked man, the only person who could touch her without triggering a reaction. To lure him out, she returned to the spot where she had been mugged and deliberately provoked a local thug. As expected, the masked man appeared when she screamed for help in a chicken voice. But before she could do anything, she slipped, hit her head, and passed out. With no other choice, the masked man carried her back to his place. Alicia woke up in an unfamiliar room and cautiously looked around. The walls were covered with photos of her and her friends, along with several digital countdown timers ticking away. As she tried to make sense of it all, she heard the sound of running water from the bathroom. Curious, she peeked inside, and there stood Simon. Confused, Alicia couldn't understand why there were two Simons. The Simon before her calmly explained that he was from the future. He had returned to this timeline to ensure certain events unfolded as they should, and to prevent others from happening. As he spoke, he reached out and held Alicia's hand. To her surprise, she felt nothing unusual. That's when it finally hit her. Simon was the masked man. Struggling to process the existence of two Simons, Alicia panicked and quickly left. Before she did, future Simon warned her not to tell anyone what she had seen, or she might change the course of history. The next day at work, Simon confided in Kelly about how Nathan had forcefully kissed him and assaulted him for a gay baby. Kelly stormed off to confront him, assuming that Nathan was just bullying Simon again. Without hesitation, she landed a solid punch on Nathan. To everyone's shock, Nathan didn't resist. He actually admitted that he was gay. Not only that, but he passionately declared his undying love for Simon, insisting that all the teasing and bullying in the past had just been his way of expressing affection. Kelly was left utterly dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Alicia, still skeptical about future Simon's claims, decided to test her theory. She tracked down present-day Simon and subtly probed him with questions. Eventually, she confirmed there really were two Simons. Feeling overwhelmed, she returned home after work, only to find future Simon sneaking into her house. During their conversation, he revealed the real reason he had come back was for Alicia. In the future, Alicia and Simon were together. Hearing this, Alicia's feelings for future Simon started to deepen. Torn between her present-day boyfriend, Curtis, and her potential future with Simon, she struggled to make a decision. Needing time to think, she asked future Simon to leave. Now that everyone knew about Nathan's favorites, he became even bolder. The next morning, as they gathered at the community center, Nathan cornered Simon in the locker room, pressing him against the wall and dramatically confessing his love. That's when Kelly noticed something strange, a fresh, heart-shaped tattoo on Nathan's shoulder. And inside the heart was Simon's name. It clicked. It turns out Nathan's sudden personality shift had to be connected to that tattoo. Suspicious, Kelly tracked down the tattoo artist. Using her ability to read minds, she uncovered that the tattoo artist had powers too. He could manipulate people's emotions through tattoos. Whoever's name was written inside a heart tattoo would become the object of uncontrollable love. Realizing he'd been exposed, the tattoo artist panicked. Before Kelly could react, he used his powers on her as well, branding her with the same heart tattoo as Nathan's. The next day, Simon walked into the locker room and was shocked to see Kelly sporting an identical heart tattoo. Even more alarming, her behavior had changed, just like Nathan's. Simon knew something was seriously wrong. Meanwhile, Alicia's patience with Curtis was wearing thin. Frustrated and torn between her two love interests, she eventually snapped, leading to a heated argument. Furious, she stormed off, straight into the arms of future Simon. Just as they were about to talk, future Simon got an urgent call and had to step out, leaving Alicia alone. At the same time, present-day Simon rallied the group, urging them to track down the tattoo artist and get rid of their tattoos before things spiraled further out of control. Just then, the masked man appeared out of nowhere, tossing a bag of peanuts at them before vanishing again. Confused, but with bigger problems to deal with, they put the mystery aside and rushed off to find the tattoo artist, before it was too late. Simon picked up the peanuts and, along with the group, rushed to the tattoo shop. As soon as Kelly saw the tattoo artist, she eagerly ran into his arms like a puppy greeting its owner. It turned out that the tattoo artist had actually tattooed his name on Kelly's shoulder. Just as Curtis was about to step in and defend his friend, the tattoo artist used his powers to tattoo a knife on his stomach. Immediately, Curtis collapsed, bleeding as if he'd been stabbed for real. With the group at a loss, Simon suddenly noticed an allergy warning sign on the wall. That's when he remembered the peanuts the masked man had given them earlier. He pulled out the peanuts and used them to threaten the tattoo artist, demanding that he remove their tattoos. The tattoo artist's expression shifted slightly, but he still remained defiant. As they faced off, Simon opened the peanuts and scattered them over the artist. To Simon's shock, the peanuts had no effect. Instead, the tattoo artist, now enraged, activated his powers. A chain appeared around Simon's neck, slowly tightening. In a split second, Simon had an idea. He quickly flicked a peanut into the tattoo artist's mouth, triggering his peanut allergy. Struggling to breathe, the tattoo artist rushed to grab his allergy medication, but Simon beat him to it. Realizing he had no other choice, the tattoo artist surrendered. He removed the tattoos from everyone, and they were finally back to normal. With the crisis over, the group left the tattoo shop. Curtis, still feeling bad for his past behavior, tracked down the girl he'd previously barged into, whose name is Nikki. He brought her a gift to apologize for invading her home. He couldn't shake the feeling that she seemed oddly familiar. Nikki, however, assumed Curtis was just using some cheesy pickup line. That's when Curtis noticed something that caught his attention. She had a heart condition. Touched by her situation, he tried to comfort her, but when she didn't respond, he reluctantly walked away. Meanwhile, Kelly was waiting for future Simon to return. As she sat in front of her computer, she saw a news story about the group's superpowers being exposed. Just as she was trying to process everything, future Simon showed up. Alicia, eager to know what would happen in the future, asked him about it, but Simon seemed reluctant to alter reality. He gently stroked Alicia's cheek, his eyes filled with intense affection. Alicia, moved by his tenderness, was soon caught up in the moment. They ended up in a hormone yoga session together, fantastic but fast. 2 minutes later, they finished, and as they lay in each other's arms, sweating from their workout, Alicia couldn't believe how good Simon was. Simon told her she taught him well, and added that the Simon from this timeline would soon lose his virginity. At the same time, Nathan and Kelly's relationship was progressing. The two of them were preparing for a workout at Nathan's temporary place. Just as Nathan was gearing up, Kelly suddenly realized she wasn't feeling anything at all. She stopped the session and, for the first time, understood that her feelings for Nathan were more about friendship than love. It was clear they were better off as just friends. The scene shifts to the group arriving at the community center, where Officer Sean introduces a new recruit, a rebellious boy named Ollie with a braid. Concerned about keeping their superpowers a secret, the group huddles together to figure out how to get rid of Ollie. Unexpectedly, Ollie comes right out and asks if anyone has superpowers. The group is taken aback by his direct question. Ollie then reveals that he has teleportation abilities. Encouraged by the group, Ollie demonstrates his power by teleporting from one spot to another. However, the group is unimpressed, finding his ability rather useless, and they move on to their work for the day. Suddenly, a man came rushing around the corner, seemingly being chased by someone. Not long after, a red sports car screeched to a halt in front of them. A man stepped out of the car to flex his unfriendly face and bald head. The bald man was a heavy gamer, and as a result of the storm, he gained superpowers. In his eyes, the world had transformed into something like the game Grand Theft Auto. As soon as the bald man got out of the car, he asked for a person, leaving everyone confused. At that moment, Nathan casually pointed at Simon and jokingly said he's the person he was looking for. What was meant as a tease immediately backfired. The bald man mistook Simon for the gangster who had stolen his money. In the bald man's game-like world, he had to make the gangster pay back the money to move to the next level. To make matters worse, he mistook Kelly for his ex-girlfriend who had betrayed him and joined the gangster. Realizing that the bald man wasn't quite right in the head, Ollie stepped forward, claiming he could calm the bald man down. But instead, the bald man shot him in the head, killing him instantly. Ollie was taken out on the spot. As they scrambled to escape, Simon and the others ran, fearing they might be next. Luckily, they managed to outrun the bald man and hid on a rooftop, shaking him off for the time being. Alicia found future Simon and asked him about the bald man's appearance and why he didn't help Ollie. Future Simon explained that saving Ollie would have caused someone else to die. Alicia didn't fully understand, but didn't press further. The next day, due to Ollie's death, Officer Sean called the group to the police station for questioning, reminding them to avoid causing any trouble. The group was upset by Sean's indifference, but he had over 30 reports to write because of Ollie's death, so he couldn't care less about them. He waved them off, telling them to get back to work. After work, Curtis approached Alicia, feeling that something had been off between them lately, as his jealousy over Simon was making him feel uncomfortable. Their conversation didn't go well, and as they argued, the bald man suddenly showed up. The two had no choice but to stop fighting and flee together. After escaping from the bald man, Alicia broke up with Curtis, and he also realized something had changed between them. They decided to part ways amicably. Meanwhile, after Ollie's death, a girl with a heart condition, Nikki, was in need of a heart transplant. The doctors decided to transplant Ollie's heart into her. She adjusted to the new heart quickly, but while resting, she mysteriously teleported from her hospital bed to Ollie's corpse. To her surprise, Nikki now had Ollie's powers, though she had no idea how to use them and felt completely confused. Soon, Nikki found the location of Ollie's death and thanked him. At that moment, she ran into Curtis, who had just been through a breakup. The two lonely souls connected, and Nikki shared her strange teleportation experience. Curtis explained superpowers to her, and she quickly accepted the idea. The two developed a mutual attraction and decided to meet at a bar for a drink. After parting ways with Curtis, Simon and Alicia's relationship grew stronger. One day, after leaving future Simon's place, Alicia ran into Kelly on the stairs. As they spoke, the bald man set his sights on them again. The sound of his car's engine alerted the two to the danger behind them, and they ran for their lives. Ultimately, the bald man caught Kelly, mistaking her for his ex-girlfriend who had betrayed him. He demanded that Alicia deliver a message to the gangster, $100,000 for Kelly's release. He told her the drop-off location and then drove off. As Alicia rushed to the community center to inform everyone about Kelly's capture, future Simon turned on the TV in another room, cranking the volume up. Suddenly, the group heard a scream and ran to find the source. They discovered that the TV was showing footage of a video game. After analyzing the game's plot, Simon deduced that the bald man was trapped in a game world and was currently completing a mission. The only way to save Kelly was to help the bald man finish the game. They decided to steal Sean's car under the pretense of washing it and head to the drop-off point. However, they encountered a major problem. They didn't have $100,000. Then, Simon had an idea. He could use his invisibility powers to steal money from an armored truck. It worked flawlessly, and Simon soon had a box full of cash. Afterward, Nathan joked about how, despite having superpowers, they were still all criminals. They followed the address to the warehouse where the exchange was supposed to take place. When they arrived, they saw Kelly suspended in a wedding dress. It turned out that in the bald man's game, his ex-girlfriend had dumped him at their wedding. Under the bald man's threat, Simon handed over the money. Suddenly, the game screen displayed Level 8 completed, and the bald man entered the next level, whose mission is to find the undercover cop in the gang. To force information out of the gang members, the bald man suspended everyone, telling them he would return with a chainsaw. If they didn't answer by then, he'd kill them one by one. The group tried every method to escape, but they couldn't figure out a way out. At the same time, Nikki was drinking at a bar. Just as she was about to leave, she suddenly thought of Curtis, and in that instant, her powers went out of control. Without warning, she was teleported to Curtis's side. The group was overjoyed to see her, thinking she could help them escape. But coincidentally, the bald man had just returned. In the end, Nikki was caught as well. Seeing that no one was confessing, the bald man decided to kill Alicia as an example to intimidate the others. Just as things seemed hopeless, Nathan confessed to the bald man that he was an undercover agent, drawing the bald man's attention. Curtis seized the opportunity to attack the bald man, allowing Alicia a chance to escape. In her panic, Alicia ran down a dead-end alley with the bald man hot on her heels. At that moment, future Simon appeared on the rooftop, watching the countdown as if waiting for something. The bald man cornered Alicia, and just as he fired, future Simon jumped down from above, taking the bullet for her. He collapsed to the ground, pulling off his mask and telling the bald man that he was an undercover cop. The bald man's screen showed that the game had ended, and without another word, he left. Simon stopped Alicia from calling for an ambulance, telling her that only his death could complete the time loop for the present-day Simon and Alicia. Before he died, future Simon urged Alicia to burn his body with the gasoline he had left for her so no one would ever know of his existence. He also told her that only if she fell in love with Simon would he become the man he was now. With that, future Simon slowly closed his eyes. Devastated, Alicia set his body alight. As the flames lit up the night, Alicia walked away slowly. A few days later, the rescued group saw the news in the paper that the bald man had been caught. At that moment, Alicia looked at Simon with eyes full of deep affection. Curtis and Nikki also soon started a relationship. Later, Alicia returned to future Simon's hideout, where the room was filled with memories of her and future Simon. Suddenly, she noticed a photo of herself with Simon on the wall, and a smile tugged at her lips as if she had just understood something. The scene shifts to Nathan waking up and accidentally seeing a ponytail girl changing clothes in the changing room at the community service center. When she noticed, Nathan didn't apologize. Instead, he began flirting with her, and after she scolded him loudly, he left. Later that evening, while Nathan was in the bathroom, the lights went out and he was suddenly attacked. His head exploded and he died instantly. Thankfully, Nathan had the ability to regenerate. The next day, he told everyone about his death, suspecting it had something to do with the ponytail girl he had seen. The others all agreed that it wasn't surprising Nathan had been killed. Given his big mouth, it was a miracle he'd made it this far, so they dismissed it as just Nathan talking nonsense again. While doing community service, Nathan saw the ponytail girl again. He asked Sean about her and learned her name was Jessica. She was organizing a charity running event at the community service center. Nathan thought maybe she killed him because he had watched her change clothes. Just then, Jessica noticed Simon. She was drawn to Simon's somewhat awkward charm, and as they started talking, she noticed Nathan nearby, looking extremely uncomfortable. It seemed like Nathan's presence caught her off guard. Meanwhile, Kelly was at work when a slightly awkward man rushed in, and the moment he saw Kelly, his eyes widened. Kelly used her telepathy to read his thoughts and heard him think that she is so beautiful. This made Kelly feel an unexpected attraction to the man. At that moment, a police officer barged in asking about the man's whereabouts. Kelly instinctively felt the man wasn't a bad person, so she lied to the officer, helping the man escape. After work, Nathan told Simon that Jessica was the one who had killed him. She must have some kind of agenda, and he advised Simon not to get too close to her. The group then went over Simon's previous girlfriends, Sally, Lucy, each one more eccentric than the last. Simon felt like he was being targeted, so he asked them if they thought that any girl who liked him must be troubled. Only Alicia denied it. The others all silently agreed. Frustrated, Simon decided to confront Jessica and invited her to go out for drinks after work. Meanwhile, on her way home, Kelly ran into the same man from earlier. He brought a case of beer and thanked her. Kelly learned his name was King Kong, and he had been chased by the police after a fight. Using her telepathy, Kelly felt that he genuinely wanted to be friends, and his honest, down-to-earth demeanor won her over. She decided to take him to the park. As they talked, their bond grew stronger. That night, Nathan stayed overnight at the community service center and accidentally saw Jessica with a man. The man's behavior was over the top, which upset Jessica. After he left, Nathan felt an odd compulsion to follow her. Suddenly, the man came running out of the room, covered in blood, and collapsed. Nathan was now certain that Jessica was hiding something. Any man who got close to her ended up dead. He rushed to Alicia for help, planning to save Simon. Meanwhile, Jessica and Simon had already met. Jessica was very attracted to Simon, and the two hit it off immediately. She pulled him into a parking lot where their youthful hormones took over, and they shared a passionate kiss. When they parted ways, Simon couldn't stop thinking about the sweet kiss. Suddenly, he noticed Nathan and Alicia following him. After Simon left the bar, the two had been tailing him. Once discovered, Nathan and Alicia told Simon about the man who had been killed, but Simon still didn't believe them. To convince him, they took him to the crime scene, only to find that the man's body and blood had been cleaned up. With no evidence to support his claim, Nathan had no choice but to remain silent. Simon was deeply disappointed in them. Meanwhile, King Kong and Kelly's relationship was developing at lightning speed. He took her to his home, and Kelly could sense his sincerity through her telepathy. The attraction was undeniable, and soon they were caught up in a passionate struggle, their emotions spiraling out of control. Back to Jessica, it seemed she was starting to genuinely care for Simon. While jogging, she told him she was planning to host a charity masquerade ball and hoped he would bring friends. Despite his frustration with Nathan, Simon still considered them his closest friends and gave them tickets to the event. The group remained suspicious of Jessica, so they decided to attend the ball for Simon's safety. Later, Kelly ran into King Kong in a warehouse and invited him to the masquerade ball. The two, alone in the warehouse, once again began to struggle with each other. However, King Kong's rough movements nearly broke the shelves, which greatly angered Kelly. At the same time, Simon and Jessica were getting intimate in the dressing room. As things heated up, Jessica was about to reveal a secret to Simon when her father suddenly appeared. His gaze instantly turned severe. Caught teasing his daughter in front of her father, Simon could only awkwardly stand there. The next day, the masquerade ball began, and everyone dressed in eccentric costumes. Simon and Jessica grew closer, which made Alicia burn with jealousy, though she still worried for Simon's safety and stayed close behind him. What they didn't know was that Jessica's father, watching the couple, had blood-red eyes. Later, when Simon went to the bathroom, he saw someone dressed like him. Shortly after, Jessica's father arrived at the bathroom, and seeing Simon, he lunged at him with a knife. However, when the man pulled off his mask, it turned out he had stabbed the wrong person. Another man, dressed similarly, had taken the knife for Simon. It became clear that Jessica's father was the one who had killed Nathan earlier. At that moment, Simon was led away by Jessica to a small cabin. The group, trailing behind, suddenly lost track of them. They split up to search, and Curtis found himself on the rooftop. He realized the scene before him was identical to what he had seen when he first traveled to the future. Sure enough, Nikki's powers kicked in and teleported her to the rooftop. She opened the door and saw Curtis with a familiar scene. Both of them were passionately engaged in an affair on the rooftop. At the same time, Alicia stumbled upon the body of the unlucky man who had been mistakenly killed earlier. She suddenly realized things were taking a dangerous turn. Meanwhile, Simon and Jessica had arrived at the cabin, their passion consuming them as they shared their first time together without hesitation. As soon as their workout ended, Jessica's father showed up. Seeing the precious flower he had protected for years being defiled by Simon, he grabbed Simon by the neck. Just as things seemed dire, Alicia arrived and knocked Jessica's father unconscious. Looking at Simon in front of her, Alicia felt a mixture of emotions she couldn't quite explain. Meanwhile, King Kong, dressed in a gorilla suit, sneaked into the masquerade ball. He found Kelly and apologized for his earlier rough behavior. King Kong admitted he was still learning how to interact with women and was about to share a secret with her when suddenly the police barged into the event. Seeing the cops, King Kong hurriedly grabbed Kelly and ran, carrying her up to the rooftop. It turns out King Kong was no ordinary man. He was a literal gorilla. Once they reached the roof, a cop was already waiting for them and without hesitation attacked King Kong. In a fit of rage, King Kong knocked the cop down and picked up a stone, ready to crush him. At that moment, another cop arrived and shot King Kong. He fell into Kelly's arms, and when she took off his mask, she was shocked to see he was, indeed, a gorilla. As Kelly listened to King Kong's thoughts, she learned that he just wanted to learn how to be human. Meeting her had made his life worth it. Moved to tears, Kelly kissed him goodbye. It turned out the storm from earlier had given the gorilla superpowers, turning him human. After everything settled, Kelly found herself on the rooftop, grieving quietly. Nathan arrived and comforted her using his muscles. She told him how most people say one thing and think another, but King Kong was truly genuine, and she had fallen for him, only to find out he was actually a gorilla and that they had been intimate. Before long, the others arrived. Simon had two pieces of news. First, the police had arrested Jessica's father, and everything was finally settled. Second, he had lost his virginity. He felt like a superhero. Nathan teased him relentlessly, suggesting they throw a celebration for Simon's graduation from virginity. Alicia, however, looked like she was about to explode with frustration. The five of them, dressed as superheroes, truly felt like they were the real deal at that moment. This scene shifts to a slight flashback before the storm that changed everything. An unknown, humble guy who worked as a milk delivery man, unnoticed by everyone, including his dream girl. But when the storm hit, the milkman discovered he had the ability to control milk, the cow's milk, but not his own one. His life, which had been calm and uneventful, was turned upside down. He decided to record his newfound power and post it online. Suddenly, he became a local celebrity, performing his abilities in the store. His dream girl started noticing him. After becoming famous, a TV agent approached him, and with her help, he became the first official superhero. On the last day of their community service, Nathan and the others saw the show. They couldn't help but feel envious of the milkman's rise to fame. Later, in the bathroom, they discussed whether they should follow the milkman's lead and use their own powers to make money. Coincidentally, Officer Sean overheard their conversation while in the restroom. Just as they were about to leave, a group of reporters blocked their way outside. It turned out Sean had sold the information to them. Just as they were panicking, the agent appeared and invited them to join her superhero team. She promised fame and fortune in exchange for their commitment, offering to fulfill all their requests. Fearing their involvement in the probation officer's death would be exposed, Nathan cautiously asked if she could also take care of that. The agent confidently assured them that there was nothing money couldn't solve. With that reassurance, everyone agreed to join her team except for Simon. He felt that becoming famous would ruin his quiet life. After joining the agent's team, Nathan and the others quickly became well-known stars. The scene shifts to a few days later. Nathan had just emerged from a crowd of women when Simon approached him. It turned out that after returning home, Simon had told his parents about his ability to turn invisible. They were terrified of his powers and kicked him out. With nowhere else to go, Simon turned to Nathan for help. However, Nathan already had plans and told Simon to meet up with Alicia, Kelly, and Curtis. The group was attending a party today, and Nathan and his friends were feeling on top of the world, enjoying the moment. In stark contrast, the milkman, whose ability to control milk was no longer impressive with the increasing number of super-powered individuals, found himself increasingly irrelevant and out of favor with the agent. To make things worse, Nathan openly teased him, calling him a little milk cow in front of everyone. At this point, a new and extraordinary super-powered person appeared, the Miracle Doctor. His ability was to cure any disease, but it required him to rub the affected area of the patient repeatedly. He had just healed a man with a limp, and the agent immediately saw him as a cash cow. This ability to heal anything was truly incredible. Watching this unfold, the milkman felt deeply discouraged. Returning to his room, he found his girlfriend packing her things, preparing to leave him. She had grown tired of his powers and complained that the milkman was nothing more than a kid playing with milk. Devastated by one blow after another, the milkman was consumed by rage. Sensing dairy products inside his girlfriend's body, he used his powers to control the milk, forcing it into her airway and suffocating her to death. After killing his girlfriend, the milkman completely turned to the dark side. He then saw a news report about the Miracle Doctor and his healing powers, and his jealousy grew stronger. Meanwhile, Nathan, after indulging in excessive pleasure since his rise to fame, had contracted an STD, and his little sausage was no longer functioning properly. Desperate to fix things for the sake of his own happiness, Nathan sought out the Miracle Doctor, hoping he could use his powers to heal his private parts. The funny part was that in order for the Miracle Doctor to activate his powers, he had to rub the affected area. The Miracle Doctor flatly refused to do that to Nathan. Just then, the milkman appeared outside the Miracle Doctor's window. Seeing Nathan and the Miracle Doctor tangled up in conversation, the milkman secretly manipulated the milk the Miracle Doctor had just drunk, causing the Miracle Doctor to suddenly collapse. He was impaled by a sharp object on the desk. Nathan panicked, thinking he had accidentally killed the Miracle Doctor. This all happened to be witnessed by the agent, who immediately realized that this situation was beyond saving. To protect Nathan, her cash cow, she arranged for him to make a statement, covering it up as an accident. Having narrowly escaped, Nathan and Simon discussed the situation in their room. Alicia came to see Nathan, and Simon, not wanting to be exposed, made himself invisible. Alicia expressed regret about accepting the agent's offer and feeling empty in her current life. She wished she had listened to Simon, who had once said that the time he spent doing community service was the happiest period of his life. Simon, surprised, realized he had never said that. After Alicia left, Simon quietly followed her. Simon trailed Alicia to a place that used to be his hideout. Seeing the pictures on the wall and Alicia pulling out a photo of them together, Simon's curiosity got the better of him. Unable to hold back any longer, he appeared and asked her about it. Realizing she couldn't keep the secret any longer, Alicia confessed everything about the future Simon. It was then that Simon learned that the masked man was actually his future self, and that he would eventually be with Alicia. Simon was left confused and unsure of what to do. Meanwhile, the agent confronted the milkman. As more and more superpowered individuals joined her team, she decided to discard the useless milkman. Enraged, the milkman manipulated the cheese in her body, blocking her arteries and killing her. At that moment, the milkman completely lost control. That night marked Nathan's first TV appearance. The team came to the live show to support him, enjoying the pizzas provided by the station. Curtis, who was lactose intolerant, didn't eat the pizza. At this point, no one realized that danger was approaching. The scene shifted to Kelly and Alicia heading to the restroom where they were ambushed by the milkman. He grabbed Alicia, and shortly after, Simon received a text from the milkman threatening him to meet at the hotel. Panic-stricken, Simon quickly gathered the others, and they found the restroom at the crime scene. They saw a puddle of milk and immediately deduced that the milkman was involved. At that moment, Curtis, worried for Alicia's safety, accidentally triggered her teleportation power and appeared next to Alicia. The milkman, glaring at Curtis, was filled with murderous intent. Meanwhile, Nathan was performing on TV, unaware of the danger. In a transparent box, he dramatically shot himself in the head, only to revive moments later, leaving everyone stunned. After the live show, Nathan went to the dressing room to change when Kelly suddenly appeared. She told him that she had already been killed by the milkman. It turned out that the person he was speaking to was Kelly's soul, while the real Kelly had already died at the milkman's hands. Furious, Nathan went to confront the milkman. When they met, Nathan confidently told him that he wasn't afraid because he could regenerate. The milkman calmly responded he wasn't planning to kill him. In the next instant, the milkman activated his power, forcing dairy products to invade Nathan's brain, turning him into a vegetable, a lifeless shell. Meanwhile, Simon and Curtis returned to the hotel to look for Alicia. Simon found Nathan lying on the floor, along with Curtis and Alicia, who had both fallen victim to the milkman's deadly hands. Seeing his friends in such a horrible state, Simon was overcome with rage. Using his powers to become invisible, he began searching the floor for the milkman. On the other side, Curtis ran into the milkman. Curtis demanded to know why he was doing this, and the milkman explained that he just wanted more attention and couldn't bear returning to the life of being ignored by everyone. Curtis, who was lactose intolerant and never consumed dairy, found the milkman's powers ineffective against him. Curtis threatened to kill the milkman, but the milkman suddenly pulled out a knife and lunged at him. The knife froze in midair, as Simon had appeared and blocked the attack just in time. As he lay dying, Simon put all his hope on Curtis, telling him that all their friends were dead. Encouraged by Simon's words, Curtis finally activated his time rewind ability, bringing everyone back to life. The scene shifted. The milkman at home was preparing to record a video of his milk-controlling abilities when he suddenly heard a knock on the door. The moment he opened it, the milkman was knocked out instantly. With his exposure gone, the group's superpowers remained a secret. The team quietly completed their last day of community service. As they parted ways, they found themselves unexpectedly reluctant to say goodbye, especially Simon, who felt that the time spent doing community service had been the happiest of his life. Simon's sincere feelings made everyone a little emotional. At Kelly's suggestion, the group decided to go to a bar for a drink. This scene shifts to 3 months after the group entered society. Kelly became a janitor and Nathan dressed up as Santa Claus handing out flyers. Curtis and Nikki were living carefree, though Nikki often found herself teleporting to random places during intimacy. Simon, determined to become the fit, confident version of himself from the future, was training hard to improve his physical fitness. The next day, the team gathered at the bar where Curtis and Alicia worked. By now, Simon and Alicia were an official couple. During this time, the group had been struggling in society, unable to make any money. As they complained, Nikki returned. Curtis secretly stuffed her forgotten panties back where they belonged. Seems Nikki still couldn't control her powers at will. After leaving the bar, Nathan ran into a pregnant woman and instantly fell in love with her. During their chat, they quickly hit it off and skipped the usual dating formalities, jumping straight into a passionate and intense hormone yoga session. Meanwhile, Alicia saw an ad during the day offering to buy superpowers for cash. Curious, she decided to check it out and found a drug dealer who was in the business of buying and selling superpowers like trading drugs. It turned out that the drug dealer was also a superpowered individual, capable of absorbing others' abilities and transferring them to someone else, though he couldn't use those powers himself. Alicia, wanting to rid herself of her own dark powers and experience a normal relationship with Simon, sold her superpower to the drug dealer without asking for any money. As she left, she bumped into a handsome man who turned out to be a church pastor, though for some reason his real name was Jesus. Jesus wasn't doing too well. He organized a fundraiser, but no one showed up. To attract followers, he purchased a superpower from the drug dealer. The next scene showed Jesus using his powers to walk on water by a river, attracting a crowd of Christian followers who believed they were witnessing a miracle. Little did they know, it was just a superpower at work. After selling her powers, Alicia met up with Simon, and they finally had a chance to enjoy a passionate and unimpeded encounter. However, afterward, Simon was sulking in bed. He felt that Alicia loved the future version of him, and he was just a substitute. He asked himself if he was envious of himself. In his frustration, Simon decided to take a walk and used his powers to disappear right in front of Alicia. Meanwhile, after their passionate encounter, Nathan and the pregnant woman were lying in bed, enjoying a tender moment. Nathan wanted to live a normal life with the pregnant woman, but they were faced with a harsh reality. Nathan was a man without assets. No house, no car, no money. He gave the pregnant woman the only dollar he had left, and the pregnant woman, touched, said that no one had ever been so kind to her. Nathan, feeling that the pregnant woman didn't mind his situation, felt like he had finally found true love. At this moment, Simon found Nathan and vented his frustrations. During their conversation, Nathan learned that Alicia had sold her superpowers. When Nathan heard that selling superpowers could make money, he immediately got up and went to find the drug dealer, claiming that he had the ability of immortality and demanding a price of £1 million right off the bat. After some bargaining, the drug dealer agreed to give Nathan $2,000. After receiving the money, Nathan gave $2,000 to the pregnant woman, telling her that he had sold his immortality power. He said the money was for the pregnant woman and the future life of their child. Meanwhile, outside the community service center, Jesus stood at a high point, preaching. In the crowd, a thief mixed in, and suddenly, Jesus used his telekinesis to make the thief's gun fly through the air. The crowd, witnessing this miracle, began clapping and cheering. The thief, believing that this man was truly Jesus reincarnated, bowed to him in worship, as if on a pilgrimage. At the evening gathering, Alicia told everyone that she had sold her superpower. After some discussion, the group decided that superpowers weren't really useful and might complicate their lives, so they decided to sell them for some cash. Each person received $20,000. After hearing about the sale, Simon became anxious. He still felt that their superpowers might come in handy one day, but the others, now dazzled by money, paid him no mind. Alicia, not wanting Simon to be so fixated, told him his future self had told her that everyone should give up their superpowers. Simon, believing her, went to the drug dealer to sell his power too. With the money they earned, everyone's lives improved, and they were all living comfortably. Meanwhile, Jesus, after tricking his followers out of money, continued to buy different superpowers from the drug dealer. However, the number of followers was limited, and as time passed, the money coming in gradually dwindled. To earn more money for more superpowers, Jesus persuaded the robber he had previously converted to return to his old ways. He told the robber, if God told him to rob, it's not a crime since God will forgive him. One day, Curtis was saying his goodbyes at the bar, preparing to travel abroad with Nikki, when suddenly the robber burst in to hold up the place. The group, now without their superpowers, had no choice but to comply. But Nathan had kept the money to provide for the pregnant woman and their child, so he pretended to still have the power of resurrection and confronted the robber. Just as the robber aimed the gun at him, Nathan dodged, and the robber instinctively pulled the trigger, hitting Nikki, who was standing at a distance. The bullet struck her vital spot. Now, without his power, Curtis couldn't rewind time to save his girlfriend. He watched in despair as she died in his arms. Curtis, heartbroken, thought that if he still had his superpowers, he could go back and save her. So, in his grief, he went to the drug dealer, hoping to buy back his powers. The drug dealer told Curtis that his power had been sold to an old Jewish man who planned to use it to go back in time and kill Hitler. Seeing Curtis's desperation, the others also wanted to buy back their powers, but the drug dealer had set a steep price of $400,000. Unable to reach an agreement, they resorted to force. For such freeloading customers, the drug dealer had prepared in advance and called in his bodyguard, a small, skinny boy. Nathan, initially dismissive of the boy, was suddenly thrown across the room. The group realized that getting their powers back would take more than words. It would require a plan. The scene shifted. Alicia encountered Jesus on the street. He showed interest in her and tried to strike up a conversation, claiming to be Jesus on Earth. But Alicia wasn't impressed and even recognized him as a previous customer who had bought superpowers. Realizing his cover was blown, Jesus grabbed Alicia and suddenly she was tempted. It turned out that Jesus had also bought her superpower. Just as he was about to take advantage of her, the robber appeared. He confessed that he had killed someone during his robbery. Jesus immediately lost interest, pushing Alicia away. Alicia snapped back to her senses and realized that her superpower had been sold to Jesus. She quickly ran away. To calm the robber down, Jesus said God had forgiven him, telling him to just keep robbing. The robber, brainwashed, accepted the idea. When Simon returned, Alicia apologized to him. She confessed that the future Simon never actually told her to sell their superpowers. It was just a lie she made up to help everyone become ordinary like her. She also told Simon about Jesus' misuse of the superpowers and his abuse of her own abilities. Upon hearing this, Simon realized he had nearly been deceived. He stood up and went to find the others. He told them that the killer of Nikki was now working with Jesus to rob people. Together, they decided to confront Jesus. When they found him, he was counting his money while asking his followers to satisfy his physical needs. Curtis, seeing the man responsible for his girlfriend's death, rushed forward, but Jesus teleported away in an instant, causing the crowd outside to scream in surprise. The group realized that only magic could defeat magic. They decided to steal the money Jesus had tricked out of people and use it to buy back their powers to defeat him and avenge Nikki's death. Without hesitation, the group grabbed the box filled with Jesus' money and headed out. However, halfway through, Jesus caught up with them. At this point, he used his telekinetic powers to try to take back his money, but Jesus' abilities were so powerful that no matter how hard they tried, the group couldn't keep hold of the box. In the end, Jesus lost control, and the box shot toward him at high speed, exploding his head and sending him to heaven. At that moment, the pregnant woman's water broke. She was about to give birth. With Jesus dead, the group barely paid attention to him as they scrambled to assist with the delivery. Nathan, looking thrilled, declared he's going to be a dad. The group gathered around, singing Christmas carols together, bringing an absurd day to a close. The scene shifted. After getting the money, the group was preparing to find the drug dealer to buy back their superpowers. Suddenly, Kelly had an idea. With the money, they had more options now. They didn't necessarily have to buy back their old superpowers. So they all went to the drug dealer, with Kelly leading the way to make the first deal. As a bright light flashed, the drama came to an end. There was one particularly intriguing scene in this episode. After Jesus died, his followers believed that God had once again sacrificed himself to save the world. In their minds, God couldn't be killed. But Kelly explained to them that Jesus wasn't God, he just had superpowers. One of the followers scoffed at her, saying he wouldn't believe in that stuff. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.